位记者朋友，大家下午好。
Good afternoon. Welcome to our press conference. I have an announcement at first. At the invitation of German Foreign Minister Baerbock, French Foreign Minister Colonna, and Norwegian Foreign Minister Huitfeldt, State Councilor Foreign Minister Ning will pay a visit to Germany, France, and Norway from May the 8th to the 12th. The floor is open to questions.
总台央视记者提问：中方如何评价当前的中法关系？能否进一步介绍秦刚国务？
How does China view the current China-France relations, and could you share more with us on State Councilor Qin Gang's visit to France? What's China's expectation? China and France are both permanent members of the UN Security Council and independent major countries. President Macron paid a successful state visit to China last month. With the guidance of President Xi and President Macron, China-France relations have maintained sound momentum of growth. We have productive strategic communication and fruitful practical cooperation, and maintain sound communication and coordination in international and regional affairs. During the visit, State Councilor Qin will have in-depth exchange of views with the French side on efforts to follow through on the common understandings between the two heads of state, boost bilateral exchange and cooperation, and scale our comprehensive strategic partnership onto new heights. State Councilor Qin will hold consultations as coordinators of the China-France high-level people-to-people exchange mechanism with French Foreign Minister Colonna. The two sides will make preparation for the 60th anniversary of the diplomatic ties and our Year of Culture and Tourism in 2024, and compare notes on cultural and people-to-people exchange going forward. Next one, please.
发言人您好，人民日报记者提问：今天外交部网站发布了习近平主席将主持中国中亚峰会的消息。
People's Daily, the Foreign Ministry released on its website information about the China-Central Asia Summit to be chaired by President Xi Jinping. Could you share more information on the programs and China's expectations? From May 18th to 19th, President Xi Jinping will chair the China-Central Asia Summit in Xi'an. The heads of state of the 5 Central Asian countries will attend the summit in China. This will be the first major diplomatic event that China hosts this year, and the first offline summit among the heads of state of the 6 countries over the 31 years since the establishment of diplomatic ties. It's of milestone significance in the history of the relations between China and Central Asian countries. During the summit, President Xi Jinping will deliver an important speech. The presidents will review the history of China-Central Asia cooperation, exchange views on the development mechanisms and major international and regional issues of shared interest, and jointly sign an important political document. With the concerted efforts of all parties, this summit will draw a new blueprint for China-Central Asia relations and open a new era for cooperation between the two sides. Next one, please.
Question from Reuters. Yesterday, the Financial Times reported that the European Union has proposed sanctions on 7 Chinese companies accused of selling equipment that could be used to support Russia's invasion of Ukraine. What is the China side's response to this proposal? Thank you.
我们注意到有关的。
We have noted relevant reports. China firmly opposes actions that use China-Russia cooperation as a pretext to impose illegal sanctions or long-arm jurisdiction against China on Ukraine. Our position is objective and just. We promote talks for peace and play a constructive role for the political settlement of the crisis. China-Russia economic and trade cooperation is completely above board. It does not target any third party and should be free from disruption or coercion from any third party. If the reports you mentioned are true, the EU's actions will seriously undermine China-EU mutual trust and cooperation and deepen division and confrontation in the world. It is highly dangerous. We urge the EU not to go on this wrong path, otherwise China will take firm actions to safeguard our legitimate and lawful rights and interests. Next one, please.
您好，中新社记者提问： 近日，瑞士政府有关涉台报告称，瑞士
China News Service, a recent report about Taiwan by the Swiss government noted that Switzerland follows the One China policy, but believes that Taiwan has the characteristics of a state, and that the recognition of Taiwan as a state is a decision that is left to the free discretion of each state. The Swiss National Council has adopted a motion to tighten cooperation with Taiwan's legislature and deepen economic and political exchanges with China's comment. China deplores and firmly opposes the wrongful words and action of Switzerland. The Taiwan question is the core of China's core interests. There is only one China in the world, and Taiwan is an inalienable part of China's territory. The government of the People's Republic of China is the sole legal government representing the whole of China. The One China principle is a prevailing consensus of the international community and a universally recognized norm governing international relations. It is a component of the post-war international order and shall not be distorted or misrepresented. Switzerland was one of the first countries to recognize and establish diplomatic ties with the PRC. The One China principle is the most important political cornerstone for the establishment of diplomatic ties between China and Switzerland, and what has underpinned the smooth exchange and cooperation between the two countries over the past 70+ years. We urge the Swiss side to uphold its political commitment to the One China policy, stop sending wrong signals to Taiwan independent separatist forces, stop conniving at or supporting any Taiwan independence activities, and work with China to maintain the sound momentum of close bilateral relations.
上个月刚刚访华，
German Foreign Minister visited China just last month, and State Councillor Ning will make a return visit this month. What's the consideration for this, and how does China view the current China-Germany relations? China and Germany are both major countries with international influence. Since the establishment of diplomatic ties more than 50 years ago, the two countries have always been committed to mutual respect, equality, seeking common grounds while shelving differences and pursuing mutual benefit and win-win results, which has not only boosted bilateral cooperation but also guided the development of China-Europe relations. During the visit, the Councillor team will strengthen dialogue and communication and deepen mutually beneficial cooperation with the German side, and jointly work for the sound and steady development of our all-round strategic partnership. Next one, please.
A
follow-up on State Councillor Qing's visit to Norway. How does China see the current relations with Norway, and what does China hope to achieve through this visit? In recent years, China-Norway relations have been growing with a sound momentum. Guided by the important common understanding between leaders of the two sides, we have created many highlights in trade, maritime green growth, and winter-smooth cooperation, and had close coordination on climate change, biodiversity, and multilateral affairs at the UN. All this speaks to the strong vibrancy and potential of our relations. Next year will mark the 70th anniversary of the establishment of diplomatic ties. We hope State Councillor Qing's visit will be an opportunity for China and Norway to enhance exchange, mutual trust, cooperation, and bring bilateral relations to a new height with steady progress in the new era. Next one, please.
谢谢发言人。法新社记者提问。
AFP. State Councillor and Foreign Minister Qin Gang met with the U.S. Ambassador to China, Nicholas Burns, in which he pointed out that the U.S. side has sabotaged the momentum of China-U.S. relations with its wrongful acts and moves. I would like to know the specifics.
国委会见伯恩斯大使呢。
On the meeting, we have put out a readout. You can find answers to your questions in the readout. I would like to take this opportunity to share more information with you. State Councillor Qin said that the U.S. should form a correct understanding of China and return to rationality and make things right in understanding our bilateral relations and accomplish each other in our respective development. The U.S. cannot talk about communication but keep suppressing and containing China. It cannot say one thing and do the other. It must respect China's red line and stop harming China's sovereignty, security, and development interests. On the Taiwan question, it needs to stop hollowing out the One China principle and stop supporting and conniving at Taiwan independent separatist forces. It should be calm, professional, and practical in dealing with the unexpected unintended incidents in bilateral relations and avoid further impact. On the basis of respect, reciprocity, and mutual benefits, we should advance dialogue and cooperation. Next one, please.
环球时报记者提问：5月7日，阿盟举行特别外长。
Global Times on May the 7th, the Arab League convened a special foreign ministers meeting which agreed to readmit Syria to the group. China has been supporting Syria's return to the Arab League and has played a constructive part in this regard. What is China's comment on that? China welcomes and congratulates Syria on its return to the Arab League. We believe that this is conducive to the strength and unity of Arab states, the development and revitalization of the Arab world, and peace and stability in the Middle East. This serves the long-term interests of Arab states. China has always supported Arab states in seeking strength through unity and actively supported Syria in returning to the Arab League. China has actively engaged various parties through our own channels. Last month, Special Envoy of the Chinese government on the Middle East issue, Jun, visited Syria and had an in-depth exchange of views with Syria on seeking a political settlement of the Syrian issue and facilitating Syria's return to the Arab League. Recently, China sent a task force to relevant Arab states for deep-going discussions on Syria's return to the Arab League. At the invitation of State Councilor Foreign Minister Qin Gang, Syrian Foreign Minister Faisal Mekdad will soon visit China. As a sincere friend of Syria and other Arab states, China welcomes and supports Arab solidarity and will continue to work relentlessly to that end. Next one, please. Yonhap News Agency. Chinese experts said through some Chinese media that if the ROK and Japan do not correct their wrong positions on the Taiwan question, it will be difficult to restart the ROK China-Japan summit. What is China's comment on this? And has China's position on the restart of the summit changed?
China, Japan, and ROK are each other's close neighbors. We should work together to safeguard the foundation of our cooperation and stay committed to promoting the sound, steady, and sustainable development of our cooperation. Next one, please.
总台华语中心记者提问：5月5号，世界卫生组织宣布新冠疫情不再构成国际关注的突发公共卫生事件，请问中方对此有何？
The WHO announced that COVID-19 no longer constitutes a public health emergency of international concern on May the 5th. What's your comment? COVID-19 is the common enemy of mankind. WHO's announcement marks the victory of humanity over the virus. In the battle against the coronavirus, China has placed the people and their lives above all else, followed a science-based and targeted approach, and adapted response to the evolving situation. We have not only protected our own people's lives to the greatest extent possible, but also served as major source of response supplies for the world, acting as an important participant in international cooperation. We were among the first to commit to making COVID vaccines a global public good, to support waiving intellectual property rights on vaccine R&D, to start joint production with other developing countries, and to send medical teams to other countries to conduct global origin tracing cooperation with WHO, etc. With firm commitments and real actions, China has helped keep the international COVID response in the right direction and promoted the building of a global community of health for all. We'll continue to work with the world, including WHO, to contribute to improving global public health governance, protecting the life and health of all humanity, and building a global community of health for all. Next one, please.
Xinhua News Agency, we have noted that China announced earlier today that the presidents of Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan, Tajikistan, and Uzbekistan will visit China. Can you share with us the program of the visits and China's expectations? How does China view its relations with the 5 Central Asian countries? Upon President Xi Jinping's invitation, the presidents of Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan, Tajikistan, and Uzbekistan will pay state visits to China. President Xi Jinping will have meetings with the 4 presidents, respectively. China is working with all sides and making thoughtful preparations for the visits to make them a full success. China and Central Asian countries are friendly neighbors and comprehensive strategic partners. The 2 sides have been growing their relations following the principles of mutual respect, good neighborly friendship, solidarity in trying times, and win-win cooperation. We have truly become good neighbors, good friends, good partners, and good brothers, with deepening political mutual trust, upgrading practical cooperation, and substantiating international coordination. China is ready to work with Central Asian countries to take the visits as an opportunity to further expand comprehensive cooperation, elevate bilateral relations, and contribute to peace, stability, development, prosperity in the region and the wider world. Next one, please. NHK. Yesterday, the ROK and Japan had a summit. On that meeting, they discussed the DPRK nuclear and missile issues, and the 2 sides decided to strengthen their bilateral security and safety cooperation. And on the disposal of the Fukushima nuclear contaminated water, the 2 sides agreed that the ROK will send an expert mission to the site this month with China's comment.
Recently, my colleague has stated China's position on the Washington Declaration. Relevant developments on other parties' participation in and cooperation with Washington Declaration will only heighten regional tension, undermine the nuclear non-proliferation regime, and harm other countries' strategic interests. We hope relevant country will not go further down the wrong path. The roots and context of the Korean Peninsula issue is very clear. Those who gang up and form exclusive cliques will have no future. Parties should stick to political settlement and address each other's concerns in a balanced way to safeguard peace and stability on the peninsula. On the Fukushima nuclear contaminated water, I would like to stress that this matter bears on global marine environment and public health. It's not Japan's domestic matter, and all stakeholders' opinions should be solicited, including neighboring countries. Over the past couple of years, China, the ROK, Pacific Island countries, and people in Japan have been voicing their serious concern and objection over the wrong decision of ocean discharge. Regrettably, Japan has been stubbornly pushing forward its own plan and failed to fulfill the obligation of thorough communication with stakeholders. It attempts to impose its unilateral ocean discharge decision on its neighboring countries and the world. It announced the decision of ocean discharge in 2021, and in 2022 it approved the plan for the discharge. Recently, it claimed that the discharge will not be postponed. In the meantime, Japan has been stressing that ocean discharge is safe, but it hasn't provided enough scientific and data to back this up and to resolve the international community's concern. If Japan is truly sincere about addressing the legitimate concerns of stakeholders, it should start exchange without prejudgment and stop pushing forward the ocean discharge plan and stop setting a unilateral timeline on the plan and discuss other options. Otherwise, any form of bilateral exchange and inspection is not meaningful and will only be used by Japan as a pretext.
UK Investment Minister Dominic Johnson is currently visiting Hong Kong for meetings about fintech and financial services trade. Can the Chinese side share any information about the meetings? Was Hong's human rights record discussed in the meetings?
路透社提问：英国的投资部的部长日前访问香港，讨论关于金融科技以及金融服务贸易相关的问题。那么，请问中方是否可以分享更多关于此次会谈的细节？关于香港的人权问题是否提及？
我不掌握你。
I'm I'm not aware of what you just mentioned. Next one, please.
AFP. Tomorrow will mark the 1000th day of the detention of the Australian journalist Cheng Lei. Could you share more details about the case?
请你再重复一下你的问题。
Please repeat your question. Tomorrow will be the 1000th day of the detention of the Australian journalist of Cheng Lei. Could you share more updates about her detention?
关于你提到的有关。
On this case, we've repeatedly shared information. On the specific case of Cheng Lei being detained by the Chinese authorities, we've also shared information. I would like to stress that her rights and interests are protected in accordance with law. Next one, please.
谢谢发言人。新华社记者提问：5月7日是以美国为首的北约轰炸。
May the 7th marks the 24th anniversary of the bombing of the Chinese embassy in the Federal Republic of Yugoslavia by the US-led NATO. Do you have any comment? On May the 7th, 1999, the US-led NATO bombed the Chinese embassy in the Federal Republic of Yugoslavia, killing 3 Chinese journalists and injuring more than 20 Chinese diplomatic personnel. The Chinese people will never forget their sacrifice for truth, equity, and justice, nor forget the US-led NATO's barbarous act. NATO claims to be a regional and defensive organization, but it keeps hyping up regional tension and creating bloc confrontation. After the Cold War ended, the US-led NATO sparked one conflict after another around the world, from Bosnia and Herzegovina to Kosovo, from Iraq to Afghanistan, from Libya to Syria. Incomplete statistics show since 2001 alone, NATO has waged or participated in wars and conflicts that killed hundreds of thousands and displaced tens of millions of people. More recently, NATO's continued foray into the Asia-Pacific and stoking a bloc confrontation and undermining regional peace and stability has led to high vigilance among regional countries. Today, a monument stands on the site of the bombed Chinese embassy in the Federal Republic of Yugoslavia. The inscription reads, "In loving memory of the martyrs, cherish peace." The US-led NATO should reflect on their own crimes, renounce the obsolete Cold War mentality, stop stoking regional confrontation, or seeding division and turmoil, and truly contribute to peace, stability, and security in Europe and the world. Next one, please.
您好，中国日报提问：4月24日至
From April the 24th to May the 5th, the International Independent Experts Mechanism to Advance Racial Justice and Equality in the context of law enforcement of the Human Rights Council paid a visit to the U.S. At a press conference after the visit, it called on the U.S. to boost efforts to promote accountability for actions of racism and racial discrimination and address the socio-economic woes faced by people of African descent. Do you have any comment? We noted the recent visit to the U.S. by the mechanism. During the press conference at the end of the visit, the International Independent Expert Mechanism noted that slavery has left a deep and long-lasting entrenched legacy in the U.S., which can be perceived through generational trauma. Racial discrimination permeates all contacts with law enforcement. By means of arrest, detention, sentencing, in each of those aspects, available data points to a clear disproportional impact upon people of African descent. It called on the U.S. government to take more robust action to result in strong accountability measures for violations, boost oversight mechanisms, and provide holistic reparation and support to victims. After George Floyd died from the knee on neck hold in 2020, the UN Human Rights Council held an urgent debate to call for greater attention on racial discrimination in US law enforcement. The independent expert mechanism was established in 2021 by the Council to advance racial justice and equality and ensure access to accountability. Regretfully, there have been frequent incidents of police racial violence and rising discrimination against the people of African descent in the US. Police brutality and racial discrimination in the US fully expose the country's disregard for the right to life and deep-seated racist woes. The US is by no means a model of respect and protecting human rights, but a typical example of disregard and violent human rights. We call on the US to respond to the concerns of the international community, reflect on its serious problems of racism, racial discrimination, and police violence, and stop meddling in other countries' affairs under the pretext of human rights. It needs to take concrete actions to address the problem, deliver truth and justice for the victims, and prevent the tragedy of tens of thousands of victims of racism like George Floyd from happening again. Next one, please.
Hi, a question from Bloomberg. Just following up on Foreign Minister Qin Gang and U.S. Ambassador Nicholas Burns' meeting, we're wondering, do you have any information on why they met now, and if this signals any willingness on the Chinese side for higher level exchanges? Thank you.
彭博社提问还是关于秦刚国务委员与美国驻华大使伯恩斯之间会面的问题。那么您是否可以介绍一下为什么他们两个人于今天会面？这是否意味着中方愿意与美方进行更高级别的会面呢？
你提到的秦刚国务委员会见伯恩斯大使，这是一次正常的外交案。
The meeting is a normal diplomatic arrangement. Next one, please.
Question from Reuters. On Friday, South Korea's embassy in China published a letter criticizing the reporting of Chinese state media outlet The Global Times, describing the paper's recent articles on the administration in South Korea as slanderous and provocative. The Global Times criticized this letter in an editorial this morning. What does the dispute tell us about China-South Korean relations, and what is China's comment?
路透社提问：周五，韩国驻华使馆批评一篇在环球时报上刊登的批评韩国政府的文章，称其是抹黑了韩国政府。环球时报今天进行了回应。那么，请问，中方对中韩关系有什么样的评价？对此事有何评论？
我们注意到相关的报道，也注意到。
We have noted relevant reports as well as the response from Global Times. Recently, the negative reporting between China and the ROK should not have happened. I'm sure you are all very clear where the source of that is. I would like to stress that the media does not speak for the Chinese government, but it reflects the current public opinion in China. To manage properly the source of negative press is the key to take efforts at the source. We hope the ROK will make more constructive efforts.
Question from Reuters. At a meeting in the UK last week, UK Foreign Minister James Cleverly told Chinese Vice President Han Zheng that he had made clear the UK's views on Xinjiang, Hong Kong and Taiwan. What is China's response to the UK minister's remarks?
路透社提问：关于上周在英国举行的克莱弗利外相与韩正副主席之间的会面，克莱弗利外相说：“我表明了英国在新疆、香港、台湾等问题上的立场。”那么，请问中方对此有何回应？
涉港、涉疆和台湾问题。
Issues concerning Hong Kong, Xinjiang and Taiwan are purely China's domestic affairs. No foreign country has any right to interfere. Next one, please.
还有其他的问题吗？
Anything else?
Hi, just a question on a report from the Wall Street Journal. The journal reported that Beijing curtailed access by overseas firms to Chinese data sources, in part because of a series of reports written by U.S. research institutions. Does the Foreign Ministry have any comments, and could it confirm this? Thank you.
我不掌握你提到的相关的情况。
I'm not aware of that. Anything else? This is all for our press conference. Thank you.